What happens when arrogance meets wisdom? When force collides with silence? And when two legends step into the same ring? This is the story of the day Steven Seagal thought Chuck Norris was just a cowboy actor. But what unfolded was not a fight. It was a lesson, quiet, humbling, unforgettable. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture Hollywood in the late 1980s. Action stars everywhere, explosions, flying kicks, one-liners sharper than knives. You had Arnold Schwarzenegger, the mountain of muscle. Sylvester Stallone, gritty, raw, unstoppable. And then Steven Seagal. Tall, slip ponytail, black jacket, moving like a shadow through his films. He wasn't just acting. He was selling the image of a real martial artist. But behind the screen, whispers spread. People asked, was Seagal truly the warrior he claimed to be? And that's where Chuck Norris's name entered the conversation. Chuck Norris was different. To many, he was the face of corny one-liners and cowboy hats, Walker Texas Ranger, smiling commercials, memes before memes even existed. But those who really knew remembered Chuck not as an actor, but as the man who trained with Bruce Lee, the six-time world karate champion, a fighter who bled on the mat, who traveled the world and built an empire of dojos and students. He was the real deal. Steven Seagal, on the other hand, was newer to the Hollywood scene. Aikido master, bodyguard for the elite. His movements on screen, smooth, brutal, almost dance-like. But there was a difference. Norris earned his respect in silence. Seagal demanded it loudly. One night, during an interview, Seagal was asked about other martial artists in Hollywood. The room was quiet, the cameras rolled, and with a smirk, Seagal said, "Most of them are just actors. Chuck Norris, he's just a cowboy actor." Those words spread like fire, and in the world of martial artists, words are as sharp as fists. Friends of Norris called him. Reporters pushed him. Even Bruce Lee's old students wanted to know, would Chuck respond? But Chuck, he didn't raise his voice. He didn't fight back in the press. Instead, he invited Seagal. Not to a movie set, not to a press conference, but to a ring. Imagine it. A small dojo in California. Wooden floors polished from years of training. The faint smell of sweat and pine lingering in the air. No cameras, no screaming fans. Just mats, silence, and respect. Chuck Norris stood there, calm, steady. White gi, black belt worn and frayed from decades of use. His eyes kind, but unblinking. Steven Seagal walked in tall, confident, black jacket draped over his frame, ponytail sharp as a blade. He looked around as if the room already belonged to him. And then, silence. You could hear the sound of bare feet brushing against the mat, the creak of the wood. Even the sound of breathing felt heavy. They bowed. The air changed. You expected a fight, a clash of legends. But Chuck Norris had no desire to prove anything. The moment Seagal reached forward, Norris moved, not violently, not angrily, but with the precision of water flowing around stone. A gentle sweep, a simple lock, a sudden shift of balance, and Steven Seagal, this towering, confident man, was on the mat. It wasn't brutal, it wasn't violent, it was humbling. Seagal rose again, faster, sharper, trying to catch Norris off guard. But again, Chuck flowed, calm, controlled, almost effortless. This wasn't a fight. It was a lesson. Every move Norris made whispered, martial arts isn't about domination. It's about control, respect, balance. And slowly, Seagal's strikes grew less aggressive. His breathing slowed. The arrogance faded from his eyes. For the first time, Steven Seagal wasn't performing. He was learning. There were a handful of people there that day. Some students, a few old friends. One of them later said, "It was like watching a boy being reminded by his father what respect meant." Another recalled, "Chuck didn't humiliate him, he humbled him. There's a difference." Even Bruce Lee's old students, hearing the story later, nodded with quiet approval. Because this wasn't about who could punch harder. It was about what it meant to be a martial artist. Afterward, the two men sat together on the wooden bench. No crowds, no cameras, just silence. And then Chuck spoke, his voice low, almost gentle. Martial arts isn't about proving you're the best. It's about proving you can be better than who you were yesterday. Steven Seagal didn't argue. He just nodded, slowly. For once, the man of big words had nothing to say. That story spread quietly, like a secret passed from student to student. Some doubted it, some debated it. Did Seagal really bow to Norris? Did they really meet in that small dojo? We may never know every detail, but what matters is this. Chuck Norris carried himself with humility. Steven Seagal walked away quieter, and the world was reminded that martial arts isn't found on a movie screen. It's found in the silent moment, when ego steps aside and respect steps forward. So what do we take from this story? That power without respect is empty, that fame without humility is hollow, and that sometimes the strongest lesson comes not from a punch, but from silence. If you close your eyes, you can still picture it. The wooden floor, the quiet bow, and two men, one teaching, the other learning, reminding the world what martial arts truly means. And maybe that's the real fight we all face. Not against others, but against ourselves. So what do you think? Was this a clash of legends, or simply a quiet passing of wisdom? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you felt that lesson, give this video a like. Share it with someone who loves martial arts. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that dive beyond the spotlight. Because sometimes the greatest battles aren't the ones we see on screen. They're the ones we carry in silence.